Okay, continuing with different types of safety information, part two. We're looking at different types of fire extinguishers. So the type of fire extinguishers that we have in the class pretty much will do wood fire, chemical fire. If you look on the side of the fire extinguisher, you can see the types of fires this can put out: electrical fire, and they call them A, B, and C, different types of fire extinguishers. So if you have a paper fire, liquids and electrical, this is the type of fire that this fire extinguisher can put out. It shows you how to use it on the side. Okay, next item is our do not weld or cut on any motor vehicle or gas tank or any tank without specific permission from the instructor. So if you're cutting a tank, let's say a gas tank, or welding a gas tank, you need to make sure all the fumes are out of the tank or there could be an explosion. We do have welding equipment in our shop in the back here, and you're going to have special instructions and directions on how to use this equipment. You can see it all in the back here. Oxyacetylene tanks, MIG welders, different types of welding equipment in the back here. Has to be ventilated properly. Special goggles have to be worn, or face shields that protect your eyes. These are special face shields that you have to wear. Okay, next item on our list, never weld or cut or allow sparks near batteries or other flammable liquids. We spoke about batteries in the past. There could be hydrogen gas around the outside of a battery, so you don't want to make sparks or anything around the top of a battery. Usually says on here it could be explosive, corrosive. Has all sorts of warnings on the battery. Okay, never put anything on top of a battery. So you can see those two posts on the top of the battery. You got a negative post and you got a positive post. So if you put something metal on top of the battery as like a workbench, you could actually short out the two posts together, and that can cause a spark, and it could cause an explosion. Cause the wrench to get very hot, or the part that goes across. Okay, so you shouldn't use that as a workbench. Disconnect the battery ground whenever working on fuel lines. So if you're gonna let's say you're working on the vehicle and it says disconnect the battery, all you have to do is undo the negative side. So if you find that negative terminal, you need to undo the wire or the cable that goes to that post, and that will protect you from making any electrical sparks while you're working on the vehicle. You don't have to necessarily take off the positive terminal unless if you're going to be removing the battery. So you can just take the one post off that disconnects the battery. Okay, usable rags are stored in rag safety cans. Rags containing gasoline, oil, or solvent or paint must be disposed of in the garbage can. So we have these safety stands around the room. Let's see if we can find one over here. These are for used rags. So this red can that you see right here, when you're not using the rag, you're gonna put the used rags inside here, and they go in here. This will protect them from spontaneous combustion, which is when something catches on fire just from the chemicals that are on it, such as oil or gasoline. Okay, so that's where it should go. Combustible materials or fires are Class A, use water or ABC extinguisher. So that's the type of extinguisher we were just looking at. Flammable fires that are Class B, do not use water, use a CO2 foam or dry chemical extinguisher. And electrical fires are Class C, do not use water, use a CO2 or dry chemical fire extinguisher. So the one that we have on the wall, again, you can see it's an ABC fire extinguisher. It can do wood, liquids, and electrical. So that will cover all different types of fires. Okay, in case of a fire in the auto shop area, don't panic. B, tell the instructor. Determine the type of fire and put out the fire if it's safe to do so. When personal safety is in danger, leave the building. And E says, if the fire is out of control, pull the fire alarm and seek safety. Okay, so basically, don't try to put out a big fire. All right, so this is the first set of sheets for safety. We're gonna look at another set as part 2. And some of these are kind of overlapping on top of each other. So if there's something that we already covered, we'll just kind of go through it pretty quickly. So the second sheet that you have in your module deals with developing safe work habits. First one is work quietly and give your full attention to the task at hand. Okay, so don't get distracted. Never indulge in horseplay or other foolish actions. Someone could get seriously hurt. Pushing people, running around the shop, acting like you're in a gym class or phys ed class. You shouldn't be running around in this room. You're going to be sat down for a while and think about what you were doing wrong. Number 3 is never point compressed air at another person. Air can enter your skin and cause up into your blood vessels. So again, we talked about that. Keep your work area neat. We talked about that. To ensure a good grip, wipe any oil or grease off your hands and tools. To prevent slips and falls, promptly clean up any oil or grease that might have spilled on the floor. Next one is never use compressed air to blow dirt from your clothes. Again, you shouldn't be pointing the air tool at you. Air can get into your skin. Number 8, always wash your hands before eating or ingesting to avoid ingesting hazardous substances. Do not wear dangling sleeves or ties or any kind of clothing that can get caught in a machine and cause serious injury. Do not wear sandals or open-toed shoes. You should wear steel-toed safety shoes, basically to protect your feet. If you're working in a shop, they might require you to buy a set of steel-toed safety shoes because you're going to be there every day and you risk dropping something on your foot. Make sure the heels of your shoes are not slippery. Keep your hair tied back away from machines. Tie it back or wear a cap. Do not wear rings, bracelets, or watches while working on moving machinery or electrical equipment. Jewelry can get caught in moving parts. A ring or bracelet can cause a short circuit, and the metal in a ring or bracelet can become white hot in an instant, causing severe burns. Okay, always use appropriate personal protective equipment, PPE, for your eyes, skin, head, your feet, and your ears. So we have safety glasses, we have gloves for you to wear. The gloves are hanging up on the wall here. So we have different size gloves. So you can see right here, you can just pull these out. Down here are medium-sized gloves. I even have small-sized gloves too. These are the small. So get the size of gloves that fit best on your hands. You have lots of gloves. Okay, next item on the list. Okay, always wear the seatbelt when driving your own or customer's vehicle. So even if you're going to go for a short distance, you should put your seatbelt on. Number 15 is always use safety equipment required by the manufacturer, a tire changing machine. We'll get into that more when we're using those machines. Number 16, keep your hands away from the engine fan and accessory drive belt when the engine is running. Hands can get caught in the fan or between the pulley and the belt, and you could be badly cut or even lose a finger. Number 17, do not stand directly in line with an engine fan when it's turning if the engine is running. A spinning fan might throw a blade. A flying fan blade can injure or kill someone if it strikes. Never seen that happen, but if that's going to happen, you don't want to be in the way of that. 18, be sure to position a floor jack properly. Always put a safety stand in place before going under the vehicle. We showed you that. Watch out for sparks flying from a grinding wheel or welding. Sparks can set hair or clothes on fire. Number 20, keep the jack handle out of the aisle. So when you're not using a floor jack, show you an example here. When you're not using the floor jack, you want to keep the handle in the upright position. Right now, as you can see with this floor jack here, we have the handle up. But I've seen people use a floor jack and then just leave the handle down like this when they're not using it. And you can see that if somebody's walking by and they're not looking down, they can trip over that handle. So when you're not using the floor jack, make sure the handle's in the upright position, out of the way so somebody doesn't fall over it. Okay. Let's take a look. So we're in a classroom right now. That's where our classroom is. All right, next item. Stand creepers against the wall or out of the way when not in use. Now, what they're talking about with a creeper is if you have to get underneath the car and it's not on the lift, it's kind of jacked up on a jack stand. Instead of sliding on your back on the floor, we have these here. Okay, this you can put down on the floor and lay on this with your head on the cushion. It's like a big skateboard, has wheels underneath. You can lay on this, you can see the wheels on the bottom here, and slide underneath the car. The problem is if you leave it down when you're not using it and somebody's walking across the shop, if they step on this and they don't realize it's there, they could go flying across the room, get hurt. There's another creeper that we have with flames on it. That's nice. So these go underneath here when they're not being used, right underneath the bench, out of the way so people don't trip over them. When you're not using them, you should stand them up against the bench, not the car. You shouldn't have them standing up against the fender. You can scratch the car, damage the paint. Okay, so those are what we call creepers. And again, if you're under the car, that makes it a little easier to move around. Okay. Let's see, we're gonna look at next page. A couple more items to look at. All right, so second page talks about when lifting an object, again, use your legs, not your back. Keep your back straight. If the object's too heavy, ask for help. Back injuries can be painful, costly, and can cause permanent disability. Always use the right job for the tool for the job. The wrong tool can damage a part you're working on. 24, never put a screwdriver or other sharp objects in your pocket. So I've seen technicians walking around with screwdrivers in their pocket or tools in their pocket sticking out of the back. So if you have this, let's say this screwdriver here, you're not using it, you put it in your pocket, either in this way or sticking up this way, you could poke yourself when you sit down. You could actually, I've seen technicians put screwdrivers through the customer's seat. When they sit in the car to move the car, they don't realize they have a screwdriver in their pocket, and it goes right through the leather seat when they sit up. And if you damage the car and it wasn't damaged before they dropped the car off, you're going to be paying for that. And your boss is not going to be happy with you if you're damaging a whole bunch of cars. All right, so that's number 24. Don't put screwdrivers or other sharp objects into your pocket. You could cut or stab yourself. Learn how to use and read MSDS. Now, MSDS is material safety data sheets. So let's say somebody sprays some chemical in their eye. We have a whole binder here of hazardous materials and different ways to handle different problems with hazardous materials. So as we get new chemicals, we actually get a sheet about each one, and each one will have a certain first aid procedure that you have to follow if you get it in your eye. An example here, do we have to wash your eyes out like this, or do we have to have you drink something? Sometimes you have to drink some milk or water. Sometimes you're not supposed to induce vomiting if you swallow something. And if you do, we have to call the hospital, and they have to take you to the hospital and figure out how to help you. So different types of chemicals, you have to follow different procedures. Okay, next item, number 26, wear appropriate PPE, again, personal protective equipment when working with hazardous materials. 27 is you're not supposed to be smoking anywhere in the area while working on a car or any flammable liquids. Number 28, store flammable liquids such as gasoline, solvents, and thinners in the approved safety cans. So you shouldn't put like gasoline in a plastic container, like a milk carton or something, like a gallon milk carton. They're not supposed to fill that at the gas station. It should be in an approved safety can. We actually outside have a safety cabinet. These two yellow cabinets here is where we store all our flammable liquids. And this one right here, if we open this up, here's all our gas cans and any other cleaners that are flammable. They're supposed to be inside here. These are the approved gasoline containers. And then on the other side, we have another cabinet here, and you can see all our chemicals are in here that we use when we're cleaning stuff.
Hi, Stevie.
Making a movie. Okay, so that's basically our different chemicals that we're going to be using, and that's where they're stored when you're not using them. Number 29 is never spray water on a flammable liquid or a gasoline fire because the burning liquid floats and water will only spread the fire. So you want to be pouring water on a grease fire, oil fire, gasoline fire. You should be using the correct fire extinguisher. Okay, number 30 is always wear eye protection when particles or liquid spray is flying around. 31, always wear eye protection when using grinding wheels or when welding. Here's our grinder in the back of the room so you can see what it looks like. Okay, so you can see this wheel right here. When you're sharpening a chisel, sparks will fly when that's spinning. Here's the switch down there, and basically you want to have wear this face shield, eye protection, so sparks don't get into your eyes. Number 32 is wear goggles or protective glasses or eyes. Protect your eyes when using solvents and other chemicals. If chemicals enter your eye, flush them with water and then review the material safety data sheet to determine the correct first aid. And 33 is avoid inhaling asbestos fibers. Now, brake shoes, before they were really aware that asbestos was bad for you, we used to be made out of an asbestos material, so the dust that you see on the rims, that black dust, that used to be really bad for you to breathe. They've changed the composition of the brake pad material now, so you don't have to be as concerned. It's still something that you really don't want to be breathing, and you should never blow dust like on the brakes with an air chuck, because that's going to cause the dust to fly around in the air. You're going to breathe that. You shouldn't even use a vacuum device to clean that. The best way to do it is with a liquid, which is going to cause the brake dust to go into the liquid and drip off. So we use a can of brake clean that I showed you earlier that basically will allow you to put the liquid into a pan. So here's our brake clean. So this stuff here is designed to spray on brakes before you clean, basically when you're cleaning them, so you don't get dust all over the place. All right, so that's the end of part 2.